Hello everybody, and welcome back. We are live once again here on the Project Babbage YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be, firstly, let me go ahead and tweet out this new broadcast. We're going to be working on making the BSV Overlay Services Engine a little bit funner, hopefully. Friendlier, more useful. Let me hopefully just friendlier. Copy this link and this time we'll be working on making the BSV Overlay Services Engine friendlier, funner, and easier to use. And for those of you who say that funner is not correct, I have one thing to say. I believe our slogan over here at Project Babbage is something like more privacy, less passwords, better incentives. So you'll have to bear with me on that. Yeah, so if you watched my three-part series that I've been doing over the past couple of days, we've been working on overlay services a lot and working with it. And so I have some ideas for how we can try to, make things a little bit better with that. And really, what it comes down to is getting rid of repetitive code, making it so that more people can use overlay services with less code and with less configuration and setup and complexity. So what I'm going to be doing is just trying to put together a few pieces so that at the end of the day we've got a better way to use the engine. So let me show you an example of actually the example of what people have to do currently to use overlay services. There's this overlay example, and inside here you got your index.ts, and you got all this stuff, and you got to set it all up, and you don't know what it really is doing, and you just want it to work. And that's kind of where things are with this project right now. I want to change that. So by creating a more fully packaged version of this that incorporates a lot of the dependencies that one might like to have, we can start to make it easier to use. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. Without further ado, I'm just going to copy my overlay services to a new thing called Overlay Express. So let's just wait for that. Express. No. Okay. Just getting a few things out of the way here. And getting the project set up. Okay. Right. So, what is overlay? Oh, yeah, well, that's fine. Overlay Express. Overlay Express going to be an Express server implementation that uses overlay. It'll be an opinionated but configurable overlay services deployment system. Uses Express for HTTP. Implements a web UI. Uses MySQL and Mongo. Supports ship. Uses ngrok automatically or not. So a few goals here are just going to be, let's just write up uses common MySQL and Mongo databases, implements a configurable web UI, okay. Enough of all of this other stuff right now. Let's just go ahead and get rid of all this code, because this is what we're building to get rid of anyways. We don't want to have to think about doing all this stuff in order to use the Overlay Services Engine, and that's why we're building this new thing, to try to make it easier, friendlier, funner, better, all of that stuff. Okay, that's our little README for the beginning. Let's not get too tied down in that. So there will be no API docs using TS2MD. Wait, will there? Maybe there will be. Let's think. Let's just start writing some code. How about that? That's probably the good way. All right, what needs to be in package JSON? Firstly, this is going to BSV Overlay Express. All right, type module. No, not doing that. Wait. Yes for this. No for. Actually, I see. Yeah, that's correct. Just thinking. Okay, we got our files here and our no, there's going to be one directory of exports. Right, so we're just getting some project scaffolding set up here. Test, find, link, build, dev, pre-build, doc. Just checking here. Yeah. All right. All that looks good. So there's Overlay Express, BSV Blockchain, Overlay Bitcoin SV. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. And So dev dependency, standard ts2md, TypeScript. We don't need GASP as a direct dependency here. We do need the overlay engine itself. Let's just get some things installed and set up and do some basic stuff to get started. Why we're doing this is clear, and what we're going to be doing is just adding a package that makes things a little bit easier for the average BSV blockchain developer to use, so that they don't have to go through all the stuff that I went through. 9 errors. Yeah, well, that's fine. Okay. When I was going through and doing my live stream. Okay, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to pull that out of there. I'm deleting the entire docs folder. Coverage folder, I'll bring it back if it's necessary. Dist folder, that's fine. Node modules, I need a git ignore. I see. Let's just get a project set up. Okay. And okay, rm-rf dist. And what we're going to be doing here is changelog. We're not going to. Right. I'll do the changelog stuff later, like. Okay. Unreleased. There is no 1.0 yet. Okay. Just wanting to get started here with building something. So there will be tests. It's going to be called overlay express.test. Just delete that and that and that and that and that. We'll delete every single thing except for the important things. We're going to start with one file. Just getting project structure set up here, everybody. We don't need any of that stuff. That's the entirety of what we have now. And even this, we're going to get rid of everything out of there. Okay, there's our git ignore, changelog, contributing. I'm just going to delete a lot of this stuff because we don't need it yet. We're a small project, very, very, very small. Okay, so export overlay express from overlay express. And I think that's about it, actually. So package lock will be kept, package will be kept, readme will be kept. We just made that into what it needs to be. Roadmap. Intel version 1.0 is released. Roadmap is being managed internally. Right, that's reasonable. TS2MD, I think we already looked at this. It looks good. Oh. API.md. Yeah, we're going to update that in a second. I'm not going to mess with any TS config stuff. package JSON. Let's just make sure our docs thing is going to work properly and that everything's going to be compiling. And then we'll export some basic thing out of the, right, so doc. Output is API MD. All right. Mod.ts. Okay. So let's just go ahead and export something. Right. Import express from express. Something very simple, just to get started. And this will be a class, I think. Let's just see where we can get with this. Oh. Are we in a catch-22 situation? Okay. Cannot find module. All right. We just want it to build. All right, cool. So now I should be able to npm I express body parser, a few other things. I think we're going to want ngrok. You know, we're going to want a lot of these basic things just to get started with. All right. Now I want to be able to import express from express. Oh, what do we got here? Just wanting to get, okay, I'm going to just say that can be a type like that, and then of course npm I types express. Let's see if that fixes it. I think it does. Okay, saying express. Is that how you do that? Interesting. I think that's what that's supposed to be. So, Now we get to decide kind of what we want everything to look like. I'm going to be making a lot of references to the overlay example. Whoops. Because there's a lot of stuff in here that we need to kind of work into the system. So we're going to decide on a set of routes and actually make all of this stuff work. The idea is to simplify. Right, we're doing all this stuff. So we need to set up really I don't think we can do any of this in the constructor. I think there needs to be like a constructor that doesn't take anything. That's kind of where things get started. Right, maybe I don't know, that might be reasonable. You construct this and it creates an app for you. All right, but then you got to do a few things, right? I think there's going to be a start function, and this.app.listen, this.port. So yeah, the goal is to make this as easy as we possibly can. Maybe we have a logger. And of course, this.port. Is 3000. So now we should at least be able to create an app and do that, right? So if we construct this, then what would happen is, we'd be able to do that. But there are obviously a few things that need to happen before we do that. If you call start, there's a few things that happen no matter what. One of them is that. So this.app. Right. And really this is just a place for us to set all this stuff up once for everybody, and then you can just use this package versus using your old stuff, right? So some default limits here and all this stuff applicable to this use case. right? But basically, oh, okay, well, I'll capitalize. Right. And you can set your name of your thing if you want. We have a logger. That's a simple, that's like the first few lines, right? Let's keep going. We just factored all that stuff out, right? Process.env. That is going to be a question. Do we use process.env, environment variables, or do we allow things to be configured and then you pass it in? Let's move past that for a little bit. There's definitely a lot more we can do before we think about that. All these routes, right? This is, I think, the I'm just checking out here a few of these things. I'm going to grab all those routes and put them on, just so that we're getting into the swing of things here. The idea being that people don't have to copy, as silly as it sounds, right? But like, people shouldn't have to copy all of this code everywhere. This is ridiculous. You know, we can do this for people. So we're just going to do that. Let's just copy all this code into here once for all the routes that everybody wants, right? And then app.use, there's our cores enforcement. This I'm going to get rid of. It's because we're going to do that internally. I do have an idea for this. We'll set that up in a second. This is very, you know, simple. You know, you obviously want to list your topic managers and whatever, so we're going to need an overlay engine in here. Let's go ahead and set that up. And I think we're going to create some simplified configuration options as well. So you have to configure a few things before you get your engine. Now we know we have an engine that's been configured, and we're going to set up the configurations for that in a little bit. But now we have an engine, and so we can start to make sure these methods are working. Right, this.engine, is it going to say, oh, it's possibly undefined? Well, actually, it's not, because we've just thrown that. So we've got to, in fact, now it's not possibly undefined, and now we don't have to refactor all of our code. So there is, right. There's our code for that one. We can list this stuff. And the goal here is to really just do most of this work one time. And that way it's not it's not something that everybody has to do forever. That would not be good. So I'm just setting up our routes. Obviously, we need to be able to submit transactions. And you know, we set up our tagged beef. We can import that from the SDK, because that's the correct place to import that from now. Await engine submit, and then once you get the stake from that, we actually do that. Okay. So that's submit. And here's lookup. Not too bad there. Now, we're only going to use an ARC endpoint, or enable that, if in fact we have an ARC API key. So that's something that is going to be part of the config. So that's one of the things we're going to make a little bit easier for everybody. If we have that, then we do that. So we'll warn people if they aren't setting up an ARC API key. That appears to be as it should. Let's go ahead and we set these routes up will warn in case there's a, an issue there. We'll fix these errors. And where I want to get to with this is the ability to kind of show an easier time using the overlay engine than what people have to deal with today. Because if we can just make some of this stuff not quite so complicated for everybody, then I think we'll have some better times with things. Here we're thinking about migrations. So there's going to be a config option for automatically handling migrations. So let's just say if, right? If we're not handling migrations, then we'll go ahead and set this up. Otherwise, so let's go ahead and just do what we can here. That's our migrate function. We've got our migrate key. It's going to come out of the config. And we'll be able to use that with our next object, etc., etc. So if we are handling our migrations, I think there's going to be a this.next for sure. So we'll want to migrate that in case we need to. We might actually log the number of migrations run, etc. But we're going to pull all of these into our little class that we're building here. And that'll be the end of that, unless, of course, we're using ngrok. Right. So we've got obviously some things to resolve here. We need a next, we need a migrate key, we need a bunch of arc related things. Let's go ahead and start to pull these things in so that we can start to make this easier for people. All right, I've got these routes out here, and we're importing next in that format, capital K. We're just going to initialize everything as undefined here. Let's think. We'll need a migrate key. Possibly undefined. I'm introducing a lot of possibly undefined things, and I wonder if there's a better way to. I mean, I could put a config object together actually, and just kind of think of that, right? So, let's think. Settable parameters. No, that'd be nice to have by default. Cannot use namespace next as a type. I don't think it would like that. Possibly. Okay. I think that's the same way as express.application works. Okay. So let's go ahead and think through what else is necessary here. We're going to need our next file. Whoops, I keep saying const. I think it's important actually to zoom out at this point and really think about how we're going to use this, because we don't want to over-engineer it too early. Let's go to, let's see. Firstly, we should resolve any build errors. We should get to a point where we can start to use this, I think, and then because I think what I want to do, okay, enable ngrok, this.next, this.next, it looks like. All right, enable ngrok I can add easily. By default, that is false. Migrate key, I need a refactor. I can easily change that. Enable gasp sync, I can set that to false. Enable arc, I can set that to false as well. Okay, we got, yeah, once again, next stuff. Okay, I'm going to Yeah, I'm just thinking how I want to use this as we're building it here. Okay, I should go find a few things I can fix. It's going to be called this dot. There's migrate key. We fixed all those. This dot next dot migrate, well, possibly undefined. So at this point, I think we need to validate a few things exist before we go ahead with this. We did the checks on that. Let's just have some errors here. Okay. I think there's going to be configure engine, configure next, and configure Mongo. Because we are going to need a MongoDB setup here for the ship and slap related topic managers and lookup services. Yeah, the goal being we want to create the best developer experience at the end of the day for people utilizing this system. Okay, Arc API key, I can add that. The next stuff I can actually, right, we can fix that error like that, and same with that. Result is going to be of type any, okay. Well, I guess we can't use that because it's in type any. I mean, I can log it. Okay. So this allows me to kind of get a handle on some of this stuff. Arc API key, that's one thing that we want to think about here. Did we actually have an enable arc? No, it's enabled if the API key is present. right? If you don't want to enable it, then don't provide an API key. I think that's the best way to go about that. All right, what do we got now? 3 errors left. We got, I think we can easily fix that one. All right, it's got to be in the ARC callback. Where is that? 196? Yeah, because all these errors I'm going through right now are related to things that I would rather go and solve once, and that way when people use the Overlay Services Engine, right, they don't have to solve it, because they won't, right? They'll just go do something else. We need to make the solution easy for people to use. Okay, that builds now. That's cool, right? That's cool. There are a few things that need to be added before we can really make use of this. Obviously, we're going to need a Mongo client as well. And that means that needs to be installed. And probably the associated types, unless it's comes along with it. No, there it is. All right. So we've got a few functions here that we need. Let's check out how MongoDB is being used in this context, though. Just reading through our configuration options here. I think the default slab trackers are going to be the way to go. Okay, so we definitely have a need for some additional things, such as the advertiser and the private key. But okay. So we need a couple of configuration methods that are mandatory. what is it? New Mongo client gets created. Oh, I see. I see that. That simplifies it, doesn't it? So we connect, and then we actually set the DB. And then here we actually have a name, so what should the default name be? I mean, just I guess overlay or default. I think overlay is the best, just for now. Okay. And then I'll conveniently get rid of that. All right, lookup services. That's concise. So this MongoDB equals DB, and that's got to be at the correct type. What is this type? It's a DB type. So I should be able to import that from there, and then I should be able to use it. And if we actually configure next, I don't think we need a next configuration per se. Just thinking here a little bit as I'm coding. We've got next. Okay, so let's just say MongoDB is a DB or undefined equals undefined. And then now it equals that, right? Okay, so that's how you configure Mongo. I think we've just done our first one. And then we should make sure that it exists before we go start everything, just like we're doing with the other ones. Actually, it's not the start technically that it's not the, yeah, we don't need it here technically. We just need it when we set up our lookup services, etc. All right, that's successfully connected. Let's go ahead and configure next here. I thought it was next dot config or something like that. anyway, I think we can just say this.next equals next, and we pass in a next.next.config. Okay. That's what it was. And then this.next equals next, right? I don't think that actually requires any real setup beyond that. So you have to configure your next before you use it, but MongoDB successfully configured and connected, so that'll be next successfully configured. Right. So we've got a few things here that have been completed. So now I think we're ready to work on the configuration for Engine, because we have our databases. So it shouldn't be too difficult to and this is where we have to really start to help people, right? Because they may not understand this, right? So obviously we got topic managers, lookup services, the storage, and I think we're actually going to just be opinionated and use express storage. So step one has got to be and how do you construct? Oh, we're one level next. Okay, so I think this. Oh wait, it's as next.next. Okay, I think that's correct. And I think I'm going to pull each of these out into their own private methods at this point, because I'm starting to want to use them in multiple places. This is ensure next. So let's just go ahead and And this is ensure engine. Right. So we got ensure engine and ensure next. We want to make sure both of those here. We obviously need to ensure next before we create a next storage. I think we're going to want some easier ways to make a to add topic managers and lookup services to the system. Just so that we can, you know, generalize a bit. Because obviously we're going to want, you know, what else is required here? Our hosting URL may or may not be okay. I'm just thinking here. We can pass in just for now. I think that's our minimum viable engine. And there's bound to be a few things that we are missing here, but let me go ahead and set up managers and services as just empty. Managers is going to be record of string to topic manager. That type can be imported from BSV Overlay. And of course it's equal to an empty first. Services is about the same, except for it's just going to be for lookup services. Whoops. And once again, we'll import this. Okay. So I think this is going to build again. It does, so that's good. And we should log that the engine has been configured. So let's create some example usage just to kind of sketch it out here, and we can try this at some point soon. But suppose we have some TypeScript code and we want to import our package. What I'd like to be able to do is just kind of start with one of these. And then you could give it an example. Server name. And then I'd like to be able to say server.configure next, and you've got to pass in your next file. So for that, you know, you need a migrations directory and all that. But set up your MySQL, set up your Mongo. Set up your engine. And then start. So that's kind of the example. That's kind of the idea, right? Is you just get up and go with overlay services. And you obviously have a topic manager and or lookup service that you've built, but you don't want to have to deal with everything else, right? That is a good part of it. Let me go ahead and pull that code into an actual we have example.ts. Actually, I can't put it in this directory just because, whoops. That's a directory. Let's create a file and let's put it in another project. Let's go ahead with a new, let's go to another let's open this up and let's just set that. We'll go ahead and index.ts. Here we go, guys. npm link from this one. npm link overlay express. We'll grab the code from the README here. Drop it into this file. Oh, that looks kind of nice. Little semicolons like that. And then I should be able to npx tsx index.ts. And what happens? Well, firstly, we've got to actually have a default export. So let's go ahead and, gosh, is this really the only thing we're ever going to export from this package? I think so. I don't really think there's going to be, I mean, the point of this whole exercise is to make overlay services simpler and easier to use. So I think that I should be able to just do that. And that should be a little bit easier than having to, and then I should build this, of course. Right, but the idea being, you know, that, here's TypeScript execute. Okay, here we go. Still not a constructor. Well, what is it then? I definitely want this to, be, oh, it's undefined. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. That means that nothing is being imported from BSV Overlay Express. Dist types mod. So I wonder if this has a lot to do with our kind of, so export star. Export default. So we're exporting this class as default, and then we're exporting everything that was exported as star. So that should work. Let me check the, so it's saying types mod. So src overlay express export default. So I'm in the types folder under src, and I see that we've got this code here, and well, things are undefined. So I wonder why that is. Right, I'm trying to link this and execute it. We can add this script here for a little testing environment. npx tsx index.ts. I don't think that makes any difference. And if I now npm run start, it looks like, yeah, when we log that, it's undefined. So if I were to add a little bracket around it, it's got to say, well, module has no exported member. But if I were to say export, star as, so I could kind of move away from my intentions here and actually see if I can't just get this to work. Oh, maybe that's what I need. Huh. Let's try that. And then oh well, it's still undefined, but because of that, maybe I should now try to use that as a, aha, I see an alias class equals. And we are now in business. So now I can actually hack on the, right, obviously we need we would need to set up an actual SQL instance and do that. But, I think this has been good. Let's see what else we can get away with here, though. Just before we end the stream here, I'm going to, right, next is successfully configured. I don't suspect that Mongo will ever successfully configure. It's going to time out. But that's going to actually try to connect. But nothing currently requires Mongo, so if I were just to comment this temporarily, in theory, it's actually trying to acquire the connection now, so. Let's see, next configure, okay, engine has been configured. Disabling ARC broadcast. Gasp sync is disabled. If I were to just set that to false, then perhaps I could get to a point where server name listening on local port 3000. So now it looks like we're actually running. I'll just check what's running on localhost 3000. And there's our server running. So we have a little demo here of this actually coming online. And so I think that it would be possible to make this, to take this idea further, guys. I think we could, in fact, get this a little bit further. Let's see, what did we get up to? A few people watching here every once in a while. Okay, I'm going to try to grab a little user interface here. I do think it is important to allow, let's see, this is a wait. I think this is the correct thing. And then where's the script? So I'm just looking for some front end code here to throw in. I see some CSS. Ah. Oh. Okay, so we're using JS deliver, and where's the actual, where are we populating that? I'm just trying to plug in the pieces here. One of the things I wanted to do is create a bit of a factory function. And try to get some user interface code. So there's Showdown. I'm just thinking, where's the code for actually interesting. I thought we had that somewhere. I'd like to be able to set this up as a right, because if we're setting this up here, I should be able to just res.set, and you get a field any, so it's going to be I think we should be able to do that. Rerun our server and see whether that worked. Oh, I've got to build, of course. Okay. So if I can even get a nice little UI on this. All right. Interesting. I don't believe there's going to be any network requests made because let's think. This is Babbage Overlay. Is there a new version of that code anywhere? Because obviously this, just trying to find a piece of HTML code here, if I can manage. We appear, okay. No actual functionality though. Odd. I was under the impression that we had that functionality, but it doesn't appear as though we do. No, we don't. Okay. Well, we'll have to write some code. Wait. I'd really like to find this actual I think I found the actual script. It was just omitted somehow. I don't know how. That should be made public. All right, let's go ahead and grab this script and put it in to the user interface. So I think this can work either way. Let's just put it there. Uh-oh. We appear to have a string escape issue. I wonder why. Well, because of that type of thing. So I'll just have to resolve some of these issues here. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling in a user interface that I'd like to be able to use within this context. So this code will allow us to resolve some, we'll be able to see a nice little user interface with all of our documentation and all of that stuff, which would be nice. Just doing some string escapes here. We don't want to escape. That wouldn't be good. And I think that's all. We've already got the GitHub link, correct? So let's just see if this works. I'll go ahead and build this again. And I'll go ahead and rerun our server. And I'll go ahead and refresh the page. And let's go ahead and see what happened. We are now listing topic managers, for which we find there are none. And we're listing lookup service providers, and we find there are none. So that is a success in my book. Now, going back to our server, just before we close out here, I'd like to be able to add topic managers and lookup services. So here we can configure those couple things. Couple of little things I also want to do is a couple of these for with Next. If you want to set up a topic manager that, or wait, no, you don't really do that with, sorry. I think it makes sense to be opinionated about this as well, at least for the time being. You could configure a lookup service with Next, in which case you pass a function that when given a nex, will return a lookup service. We'll ensure next. And then the same kind of thing with Mongo. We'll ensure Mongo. And then we'll pass that in. So that's going to allow us to configure some lookup services in here. All right. Now we've got our 3 ensure functions, and we also have some ability to configure topic managers and lookup services. And I think I should be able to build now again. And you know, we do have that, well, I'm linking now, so it's a little bit tough because I'm trying to link and let's think. Yeah, I'm just thinking I could set up my Docker Compose, right? But I feel like if I were to do that, I don't know if the npm link would work within the Docker container, and it might not. So I'm just thinking, how is the best way to test, to actually set up a database? You know, because we have the Docker Compose, I can pull that in. I probably should, anyways, just to. I think I have one in meter. Overlay Docker Compose. Oh, right here. Okay, so here we have a Docker Compose, but we need, okay, here we're saying, all right, we need our Docker file. mind what this might be, guys. Just pointing that out. Okay, so let's say node 20, just because, well, it's 22 actually. Node 18 is almost EOL, end of life. Just checking here, copy, expose, npm start. I think that's reasonable. Npm start will run tsx from npx. I think that's, yeah, okay. So now we can build this one. We can pass in, you know, some secrets and whatever. Obviously this runs 8080. Our default port is 3000. But I can set that in like that. Just seeing whether this is going to work right. Same deal here. Hosting URLs not used yet. Really important stuff is the actual okay. Next DB connection. Oh, interesting. Wait, how does that work? So there's a next DB connection. Oh, interesting. Okay, so if I go look at meter right now, I wonder how that even, I don't think I built that. At least not that part of it. Because if you can connect with a connection string to next, well, that's cool because it's just really cool. How does that... Oh. So we could even decide if we really wanted to. Yeah, I'm just thinking... I don't want to get distracted here, but I am thinking a lot about how to make this easy. Because obviously this is, you know, people shouldn't have to do all this stuff to get set up here. Okay, so, and then we set these containers up, and there's going to be no issues with that at all. Right, so just reading through these. Environmental variables, etc. Before we try to do anything with this. I think yeah, like how can we make it so that they don't have to pass in a next file every time? Because like there's a lot of stuff in that next file that You know, especially if they're not doing their own migrations, maybe they just use Mongo. They probably don't need. And I just wonder, you know, how we can make that stuff a little bit easier. Okay. I think the we need to go back to our config here and try to set this up. I know what I'm missing. We have an implementation of ship and slap topic managers here that is actually not. So all the peer discovery services are here. It almost seems as though that should be its own package. Yeah, like, I mean, I can put it in this package, but it seems like ship and slap code should be published separately from everything else on NPM. I'm going to make a note about that just so that I can remember. So peer discovery services should be published as its own NPM package because everybody's going to use this. We don't need to have multiple copies. In fact, we definitely do not want multiple copies of peer discovery services everywhere. There definitely needs to be one. And so I was just thinking of myself, okay, well, I obviously need to copy all this code into our implementation, but I don't think that's the right approach. So I'll try to bring this online just to see what happens here. I should be able to build this. I think I did already. Do it again. Yeah. And then we'll see if we can build this. I don't know whether it will. It looks like we've got a issue. Oh. Okay. I've got to remove or rename that container. So am I willing to part with my old data? I think I can. Let's see, Docker container ls. I only got the one from a year ago. Docker rm. Okay. Let's try again. Probably same with Mongo here. Let's try again. Let's try removing this. And up it comes. There's the MySQL server. Here's overlay example. I'm just seeing the npm exec here. I think that's something that it's going to ask yes or no, and it's not going to actually get an answer. So unless there's something else, I strongly suspect that this is going to require its own version of that. So I should npm I. See, waiting for this to go down here. Yeah, it's not going to terminate itself because of the fact that I was trying to install a package and I interrupted it. npm I tsx into this project. And then I can get rid of the npx because we're in package JSON. So it's like, well, why would we do that inside of this context? So now I'm going to try to run this up again. This time we'll install the TSX package within this package before, or within the image before runtime, because npx would try to install it at runtime, and I think that is not what we would want here. Now, the unknown, of course, is that I have an unlinked local pack, or I'm trying to build a package that I have linked locally. Except I've just remembered that I'll need to relink it. Because of the fact that I installed something, it blew it away. Let's see if that works a little better here. So we're just waiting for that to install itself once again. Shouldn't be quite so long, I hope, this time. And I don't know why this isn't working. I am feeling a little bit tired, so I think I'm going to end this stream pretty quick, but we'll be back with a part 2 at some point as we work to make the Overlay Services Engine a little bit better. Yeah, I don't know why this isn't working, but I will come back to it. I suspect it's something with the npm link, but I think we have some good progress here today on this. I'm excited to see where it leads. I do want to make this as easy as possible for everybody, and I think there is something we can do here with, all this code. This is a lot of code to have everybody write and copy and paste together with all the peer discovery services. That's just, it gets out of hand. So we do want to make that a little bit better and moving towards that goal. So thank you for tuning in. I would encourage you to follow Project Babbage on Twitter if you'd like to know when we go live. It could be at any time, any place. So give us a follow, and that way you can get notified. So we'll catch you on the next one, we'll see whether we end up doing a lot more of these coding live streams. I think it might be a good format just to connect with everybody. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Catch you next time.